Based on the evidence gathered to date, we assess this attack to be a Hezbollah-inspired act of terrorism, purposely targeting the Jewish community and the largest Jewish temple in Michigan.
A shocking new case is now raising fears that the Iran war is no longer confined to the Middle East, but is instead starting to spill directly onto American soil itself. The Michigan attacker, reported to have direct Hezbollah connections, was not a foreign infiltrator but a full U.S. citizen. Under Donald Trump's watch, questions now swirl whether Iran-aligned actors can hit targets inside the United States whenever they choose. A former senior FBI official's warning about Iranian sleeper cells is no longer a theoretical threat, but a chilling prophecy haunting America. From the synagogue attack in Michigan to a drone scare over Trump's own Florida estate, the Iran war threat is no longer over there but is being fought inside the American homeland. The FBI has now issued a stunning public revelation about the Detroit area synagogue attack, directly linking it to the ongoing Iran war climate that is radicalizing individuals far from the front lines. Agents say that Ayman Ghazali, who rammed his truck into a synagogue in March 2026, was not acting randomly but was directly inspired by Hezbollah propaganda, according to FBI investigators. The FBI says Ghazali had been obsessively consuming online content connected to Hezbollah and Iran, showing how digital war narratives can prime supporters far beyond the battlefield. Israeli defense officials claim that Ghazali's own brother served as a Hezbollah commander, deepening the sense that this attack was rooted in a family line directly tied to Iran's regional axis.
Based on the evidence gathered to date, we assess this attack to be a Hezbollah-inspired act of terrorism, purposely targeting the Jewish community and the largest Jewish temple in Michigan.
And had this man lived, I am convinced that my office would prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed the federal crime of providing material support to Hezbollah, a designated foreign terrorist organization. Under federal law, terrorism includes premeditated, politically motivated violence perpetrated against non-combatant targets, like the American children he targeted at this Jewish temple. To prove this terrorism crime, there are three parts or elements. First, that this man knew that Hezbollah was a terrorist organization. Second, that he provided material support to Hezbollah. And third, that he did it under Hezbollah's direction and control.
A review of his online activity since January 2026 revealed a reoccurring search history of pro-Hezbollah news channels, Iranian news channels, and videos about shootouts and bullets. He regularly consumed breaking news and statements and live coverage of the current Secretary General of Hezbollah, Naim Qassem, and viewed news coverage about an Iranian fatwa for total jihad against the U.S. military. On March 11th, the day before the attack, in the early morning, he began adding photos to a Facebook photo album that he entitled Vengeance. And he started including images such as the late Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, as well as the late Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah. With there in the right, in Arabic, it says, "Burn their world, for we have a vendetta against them that we will never forget." While he's sitting in the parking lot, he sends his sister overseas 19 videos, photos, and messages that reiterated his intent to commit a mass terrorist attack, as well as affirming his Hezbollah-inspired ideology. These communications included statements expressing a commitment to commit violent action, references to martyrdom, as well as threats to attack what he described as the largest gathering of Israelis in Michigan. So we saw that before the death of his family, before the Iran war, the assailant was consuming pro-Hezbollah materials, was affiliated with that ideology. While the mobilization and radicalization we saw in earnest come after March 9th, it still is almost immaterial because it's a terrorist attack that had nothing against people who had nothing to do with the death of his family. It was a target attack against the Jewish community here in Michigan.
On March 12th, Ghazali drove his truck straight into the Temple of Israel Synagogue, turning a house of worship into a sudden warlike impact zone in the heart of Michigan. After crashing, Ghazali immediately opened fire on security guards, and his truck, packed with fireworks, ignited in the gunfire, creating chaotic scenes of flames, smoke and panic. In the end, Ghazali turned the gun on himself and died at the scene, while miraculously no one else was killed in the attack, even though children were present at the adjoining school. These FBI revelations landed just one day after Donald Trump faced a drone scare over his Florida estate, linking personal security fears at the very top to a broader sense of homeland vulnerability. A reported drone sighting near Air Force One initiated standard security protocols in Florida, according to reports. The incident occurred near Palm Beach Airport on March 29, while President Donald Trump remained on board the aircraft. A drone reportedly maneuvered in close proximity to airport boundaries, necessitating an immediate suspension of ground operations for arriving and departing flights. Authorities deployed helicopters to monitor and secure the surrounding airspace as a precautionary measure, per bulkhead seat reporting on aviation communications. Passengers on a Delta Airlines flight received notifications that operations halted due to the nearby drone activity affecting restricted airspace management. The U.S. Secret Service contested this account when approached by Anadolu Agency, clarifying the sequence of events and response procedures. Officials maintained helicopter operations followed pre-approved flight plans rather than constituting reaction to identified security vulnerabilities. According to Secret Service statements, Air Force One and the President faced no credible threats throughout the duration of airport activities. Separately, F-16 fighter jets intercepted a civilian aircraft that penetrated temporary restricted airspace over Palm Beach during coordinated security operations. The intruding aircraft received safe escort from the zone, accompanied by flare deployment serving as standardized visual signaling to the pilot. Connection between this interception and the preceding drone observation remains unestablished pending further operational reviews and assessments. This episode follows recent FBI disclosures regarding Iranian aspirations to conduct drone operations targeting California infrastructure sites. Police departments across the U.S. West Coast have reportedly been placed on heightened alert, as authorities brace for what they describe as a credible threat linked to possible Iranian operations targeting American territory. The FBI now believes Tehran could attempt to launch armed drones directly from a vessel stationed somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, a covert maritime strategy designed to strike the U.S. mainland while evading early detection systems. The FBI alert, as per sources to ABC News, said, quote, "We recently acquired information that as of early February 2026, Iran allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise attack using unmanned aerial vehicles from an unidentified vessel off the coast of the United States homeland, specifically against unspecified targets in California, in the event that the U.S. conducted strikes against Iran." Unquote. Intelligence analysts believe this may be part of Tehran's larger plan of retaliation against both the United States and Israel, following their coordinated military assault that began on February 28. Even before the drone alert, a former FBI deputy director had already warned that Iran could actively activate sleeper cells inside the United States, casting today's incidents as part of a predicted escalation. On February 28, just as the Middle East was erupting in violence, a former senior FBI official issued a stark warning about what might come next. Chris Swecker told the Daily Mail that Iran could activate sleeper agents already inside the United States, turning them into instruments of revenge. Swecker warned these cells could carry out terror attacks on American soil as payback for the killing of Khamenei and the wider assault on Iran. Swecker suggested that Iran-linked sleeper cells may have hesitated in the past, but now, with Tehran cornered and enraged, they might feel they have nothing left to lose. The former FBI official urged the US government to stay on its toes and to assume that plans for a terror attack could already be underway, rather than waiting for proof after the fact. Swecker said, and I quote, "We've got a cornered animal here, and if ever we're going to see attacks on the United States, this would be the catalyst for that. It's a tinderbox right now. You've got the leadership of Iran in a state of desperation. If ever we're going to see something happen, it would be at a time like this where we see conflict over and direct attacks against Iran. 9/11 was a failure of imagination, right? It was a failure to foresee risks that were present. In this case, we can't afford to do that again." Swecker added that any potential terror attacks on American soil might not be highly sophisticated, but could still be lethal and deeply destabilizing.
have you been briefed about how many Iran sleeper cells there could be inside the U.S. right now?
I have been, and a lot of people came in through Biden with this stupid open border. So we know where most of them are. We've got our eye on all of them, I think.
Is it dozens?
They came in through the open border policies of Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst president in the history of our country. And we've got our eyes on all of them. But the war itself is being prosecuted at a level that nobody's seen before. It's pretty amazing to watch.